To start this sacred mandala stone, I needed to find the middle of the piece and therefore build my design around it. I found the middle using that stencil, and then once I've got my dot, I added a few circular lines coming out from the middle just so I can space my design out as I go and make sure I'm just on the right pattern. And the first dot I do is this big plumpy gold dot. I build up the dot as I go bit by bit once I've got the sizing correct, and then to get a bit extra paint into the dot, because I find that the paints I use sometimes stick to the tool, I use one of my smaller dotting tools, scrape it off, and then I just even the dot out. Then moving out to the first row, I'm using the smallest dotting tool I have here, which is the pink tool, and I'm placing these little turquoise dots all the way around the edge, taking my time as I do this because the spacing that you do on this first row dictates the spacing as you move out on your sacred geometry stone. So piece by piece, just taking a little bit of paint, placing the dot and then moving along. And then the circle here is nearly finished, just doing the last few dots. Again, like I said, just taking your time as this is where your design will build out from. And this turquoise colour I've got from the Peacock paint is actually one of my favourite colours that they do. It is a glorious metallic paint and it's got a beautiful sheen to it. So the next row, I'm moving to my next size dotting tool, this orange or yellow, I guess, tool, and using a blue paint that I have mixed up, moving the dots in between the spacing of the last row. And there we've nearly finished the row, adding the last few dots here. The next colour I'm using is a purple paint. The colours on this stone are meant to represent a peacock as much as possible. So I've got gold, turquoise, that blue, the purple that we've just used, and then I've got this metallic green colour that you're seeing on the video now. So I've now finished the first cycle of the colours. So starting from the central small dots that I had initially, going with that colour again, so picking up the turquoise, moving out with my blue tool now, and moving out around the edge. So the colours will now alternate between those, so it'll go turquoise, blue, purple, green, turquoise, blue, purple, green. And I will move my way out from the centre, and then you'll see at the end where I'll bring that gold colour back into the design again, just to bring it all back together again and make one whole piece. I've now switched from using the dotting tools with the balls on the end to moving the acrylic rods that I've got. So I was starting with the smallest rod I have, and then now I'm on to the second smallest rod and using again with this metallic green, which has the same gorgeous sheen that the turquoise does, and I think it lifts this piece quite a lot. It's quite a bright line to have running through each of the circles moving out from the centre. Now I'm on the penultimate row of the circles moving out. On this last row of the turquoise, just putting the dots here in between the spacing as we've done throughout the whole of the stone, and evening out where I need to, because this is where sometimes you notice that your spacing could have been a little bit better in the middle, but it's not too bad on this piece at all. And here you can see from the texture that my paint is slightly drying out from when I mixed it previously. It's been around for a few days now. And what I should have done, you can see that's getting on the turquoise, the dots are a little bit spiky. On this purple, you can see it's not holding all the paint and it's sticking up in the middle. I should have added a little bit more pouring medium to slacken or loosen off the paint a bit more, and you would get more of a plumper dot, which is what we all aim for. But I didn't, and so I used my small dotting tool to equal out the dots on those previous few rows. And now I'm going back to what I referred to earlier when I was bringing the gold back into the design to bring the piece together. Using my second smallest dotting tool at the moment, I am adding the tiny little dots in between the gaps of each of the rows, moving from the outside in. And I move from the outside in just because the spaces get smaller as you move in. And what I do is I use my orange dotting tool here, which is my second smallest, moving to the pink, which is my smallest ball dotting tool, and then I will move to my scribe, my pointy tool at the end as I move forward. So it's just an easy way for me to work from the stone outwards in and getting the dots the right size. And here I'm just removing some of the chalk lines from that initial circles that I put on using the compass. You can see they're disappearing. I've just got a bit of kitchen roll here and I have just dampened it slightly and it wipes off the chalk lines. It just depends on how firmly you have applied your chalk lines. I don't do it a lot, I just need it for a bit of a guideline to get the spacing right, so they come off pretty easily. And now I've moved to my smallest ballpoint dotting tool here, my pink one, and I'm just adding a few extra tiny dots in now on that blue row that you can see. And your aim now is to get the least amount of paint you need on your tool so that you don't put the dot too big on your stone. So you can see as I place it in the paint, I am just touching it in there to pick up the smallest amount. And now I've moved to my scribe, and I find this tool to be the best one that I have in order to get these tiny dots between these first 4 or 5 rows at the middle of your sacred geometry stone. It's not the easiest, it doesn't pick up the paint very well, but if you apply a bit of patience and take your time, you can dip it in the paint, get as much as you need. Sometimes you just need to dip it in between each single dot, and sometimes you can get enough off the 2 dots, as you can see on the screen at the moment, but it will just pick up just enough once you've got into a bit of a rhythm, and you can just place tiny dots in between these rows. And just as a side, this scribe tool here I dropped on the floor the other week, so it's slightly bent on the tip, which actually I find works much better. So that was a bit of a luck and a chance. And there we go, that's the finished piece. A beautiful peacock inspired Mandala stone. I love the colours, but let me know what you think.